Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Good. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. Again, there's several journalists that are participating back home that couldn't be with us today, but have submitted questions in advance, so we can just dive right in. Fred from SciFiWire.com asks, compare your experience on Prince of Persia with being a Bond girl and being in Clash of the Titans in your previous film work.
They're very, very different films. I'd done the Bond film before I started Prince of Persia, and I was only in it for a small amount of time, so I didn't actually see how huge it can be to be in a movie like that. But this was even bigger, I think. And you know, with a fantasy movie, you have all these huge sets, and you know, the landscapes were much more epic. And I don't know, it was the first time I really felt like I was in a massive, massive movie. And then I did Clash of the Titans afterwards, which, even though it was a big movie, did feel small in comparison. So yeah, this was for me a really big deal because it was the only girl in the movie as well. So it was pretty immense.
Well, as a follow-up to that, several have asked what it was like to be the only girl in the movie. Can you speak to that at all? Was it intimidating at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get used to being the only girl, one of two, and usually the girls don't work with each other in these sort of movies, so you just get used to it and you kind of muck in. But yeah, I was intimidated, especially because the guys around me were such kind of, you know, legendary actors like Sir Ben Kingsley and, you know, Alfred Molina, and then of course Jake, and then of course you're surrounded by all the guys on set. So you can either be a sort of shrinking violet, or you can be like me and just charge your way through.
Sean from 411mania.com asks, at the age of 24, did you ever believe that you would reach this level so early in your career, and kind of what's next for you to accomplish as an actress? I
never imagined myself even in a film, let alone in a movie like this. I always thought I'd do theatre. So yeah, it's taken me my career has taken me by surprise, completely taken me by surprise. So now I've been even though I've made some really, really big movies, I'm trying to make small movies as well, and theatre, and yeah, now I'm in a really lucky position where I'm getting sent really cool scripts, and I just want to be really selective and do something that you completely wouldn't expect, and yeah, so we'll see.
Sheila from moviesonline.ca asks, what was it like working on such a physically demanding film shoot in Morocco with temperatures sometimes as high as 120 degrees? How did you deal with that?
Yeah, it was pretty hot, but being from London, you don't really get that sort of weather ever. So we kind of loved it. I loved it. Any Brit probably just was basking in the sun. It was pretty full on. I mean, we were, you know, as an actor, you really have to sit out in the sun for very long. There's always someone there with an umbrella. I call them brolly bitches. and you get fed and watered, but it was pretty full on, and the rest of the crew were out there all day long. So, but you know, I got a nice tan, so.
Excellent. Michael from RadioFree.com asks, how intense was your physical training for your fight choreography and stunts that you have to do in the film?
Yeah, I didn't have to go through as much as Jake and some of the other guys, but I still had quite a lot to do, and more than anything I had to train in the gym just to get my stamina up, because it was pretty full on out there and I needed to be able to get through the day without collapsing. So I was in the gym 6 days a week, and then we went through like a boot camp, a fighting boot camp, where we learned how to fight, and that was pretty fun. I always sort of saw myself as a little bit of a stunt girl, but never had the opportunity to do it. So, and I got to do a lot of my own stunts, and that was really cool as well.
Jamie from MovieWeb.com asks, clearly you and Dastan don't meet eye to eye at first, but eventually she comes to see him differently than she did at the beginning of the film. Can you talk about your journey the journey that they go on, rather, and the moment that she realized that Dastan was different than she thought?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I'm captured by the Persians, so I don't really like them. And Jake's character, Dastan, is one of those. So there's real, you know, she's quite snooty at the beginning and very, very regal. And then as the film develops, she sort of wears him down and then realizes that there's a lot more to him. And I think it's when she sees him, you know, sort of mourn his father, I suppose. That's when she really sees that there's something else going on. And I think they play an important role in each other's sort of development, I suppose. And she sort of makes him realize his inner self, and he kind of makes her, softens her in a way, or just like opens her up, and takes the strings out of her bow a little bit.
Our last question, in keeping with the dagger of time, if you had the power to turn back time and change something, what would you do and what would you change?
I wouldn't change a thing in my own life, but I'd like to go back in time anyway, though, just to some sort of eras that I wish I'd lived in, like the 60s. I'd love to have been in London in the 60s, partying away.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being with us today.
That's a pleasure.
And everybody back home, that concludes our virtual roundtable for today. Gemma, you're the very last one, so appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much.